Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Bhagavad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Astotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Astotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, so we will be reading from page 258. And we just request, if you're not allowed, to not put that on the ground because it's sacred. Okay, page 258, Ivanya. 258. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 13th day of August, Balaram Purnima Eve, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 6, entitled Dhyana Yoga, the Yoga of Meditation. Text 2, page 258. Yang Sangyasamati Prahu Yogam Tam Vidhi Pandava Naya Sanyasta Sankalpo Yogi Bhavati Kashtana Yang Sangyasamati Prahu Yogam Tam Vidhi Pandava Naya Sanyasta Sankalpo Yogi Bhavati Kashtana Yang Sangyasamati Prahu Yogam Tam Vidhi Pandava Naya Sanyasta Sankalpo Yogi Bhavati Kashtana. Dharmaraj. Yang Sangyasamati Prahu Yogam Tam Vidhi Pandava Naya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Urjeshri. Yang sanyasamiti prahu yogam tam vidhi pandava. Naya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Marcy. Yang sanyasamiti prahu yogam tam vidhi pandava. Naya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Go ahead. Yang sanyasamati prahu yogam tam vidhi pandava. Nahya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. You want to try it? Okay. I'll read the synonyms. Yam, what? Sannyasam, renunciation. Iti, thus, prahu, they say. Yogam, linking with the Supreme. Tam, that vidhi, you must know. Pandava, O son of Pandu. Na, never he, certainly asanyasta, without giving up sankalpaha, desire for self-satisfaction. Yogi, a mystic transcendentalist. Bhavati becomes Krishna. Anyone. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, what is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Purport. Real sannyas yoga, or bhakti, means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. Excuse me. He is the marginal energy of the Supreme. When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned. And when he is Krishna conscious, or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in his real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification, or renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. The purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses, as prescribed in the jnana and yoga processes, is automatically served in Krishna consciousness. If one is unable to give up the activities of his selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. The real aim is for a living entity to give up all selfish satisfaction and to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. A Krishna-conscious person has no desire for any kind of self-enjoyment. He is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self-satisfaction, because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, what we're reading about is jnana, vairagya, and bhakti, and the relation between them. Excuse me. Gyan is knowledge. We're familiar with different kinds of knowledge. Why do we have educational systems in any civilization? I'm sorry, I have to take some water here. Harekrishna. Hope it works. It's understood in any civilization that people in general need to be educated so that they can act properly. We act on the basis of the mind, of thoughts. We're thinking this is the right thing to do. I want to avoid this wrong thing to do. That's enjoyable. Let me go for that. It's all based on knowledge. If I have no knowledge, even any awareness of the so-called objects of the senses, I won't be attracted. How do we become aware of something? How do we get knowledge in this world? Well, through the senses, through the eyes, interpreted, and then, of course, through words. And people speak to us through books, so many things. We're constantly taking in different kinds of knowledge. And that forms the platform of our activity. As we grow up, and go through different ages, our knowledge expands, our body changes, we act differently. What interested us when we were 5 is no longer interesting when we're 10. Right? We have a whole different set of consciousness and knowledge, and we're acting differently. Our body is different. So this is life itself. But the process of yoga is meant to, first of all, enlighten us with knowledge that cannot be attained simply through the senses and the mind, which is called a transcendental knowledge. And then to bring us in contact, this is where the yoga comes in, comes in contact with the absolute truth, with spirit, which is beyond the realm of matter. And in order to do that, we have the process of vairagya or detachment has to be developed. That's why jnana and vairagya are often spoken in the same verse, you'll find. In another book we have called the Srimad Bhagavad Purana, right near the beginning, 2nd chapter, 1st canto, we find a discussion of dharma. This dharma simply means some series of activities, do's and don'ts that you perform in order to get to a certain goal. Now, the supreme dharma, what is the supreme dharma? The dharma by which we can truly become happy, completely satisfied as spiritual beings, without any come-downs. In ordinary material life, as we've experienced, there's ups and downs. You may aspire for some kind of sense gratification. You may achieve it, but it doesn't last. It has a beginning and an end. And then you may try to get it again, but it doesn't happen. Again, you get frustrated and then become angry or become depressed. And you go on to something else. There's a series of life like that. So that's material life. But spiritual life means to come in contact with the spiritual source of everything so that we can become fully satisfied forever. In other words, this word is supersedity is used in this verse. So that's the dharma what we really want to find out about. What is that dharma that can give full satisfaction to the self that doesn't end? This is what we're always hankering for, but we cannot achieve on the material platform because matter is constantly changing, as we've experienced just by living in this world. You can't, you may get a nice position. Now I finally got to SanDiego. Now I finally got an apartment in SanDiego. I got a job. You know, I got some nice friends. Everything's going nicely. But time may take that away, right? The rent goes up. Can't pay the rent. You lose your job. You know, friends go away. This and that. Things are constantly changing, for the better and sometimes for the worse. That's material life. And ultimately, the body itself cannot be sustained just by the force of time. Birth, old age, disease, and death. And the whole thing ends and you start another chapter. So the soul, which is by nature full of bliss, anandamayo bhyasat. This is a phrase from another book called the Vedanta Sutra. Sutras are little aphorisms. The first one in the book is atato brahma jigyasa. It's a famous proverb, we always quote this. Which means now, in human life, don't waste it. You should search after what is called Brahman. What is that Brahman? That's answered in the 2nd sutra. Janma yasya yataha, the source of everything. So you take it apart, every syllable counts. Janma adi yasya yataha. Adi is etc. Janma means creation. And what's the etc.? Sustenance and annihilation. Everything in this world, from our bodies to this building to this whole earth, has come into being at a certain time, is being sustained for some time, and ultimately goes out of existence. So what is behind all that? Is there something that is the source of the birth and the sustenance and the destruction? And of course the answer is yes.
And ultimately that's called Brahman. And the Supreme Brahman, we find out from the Bhagavad Gita, is a person. It's not a thing, it's not a force, it's not nothing. It's the Supreme Person. So we won't go into all reasons why that's true, but that's the real basis of the Bhagavad Gita and the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So what is the nature of that person? One of the natures is Anandamaya. Anandamaya means full of bliss. Bliss means unending, ever-expanding happiness, which you can't experience on the material plane. But it's where we want to be. And we're part and parcel of that Supreme Brahman. We're also Brahman. This is one of the first things I learned when I joined the temple back 45 years ago. You learn these little phrases. Aham Brahmasmi. It goes along with this other phrase in English. You're not that body, Prabhu. You're not that body, you're spirit soul. It's a basic understanding. We're consciousness. The body is just is a complicated machine that we're occupying. Otherwise it's dead. It's dead matter. Because we're inside as spirit. And we don't mix. We infuse the body with a conscious energy. That's why it's alive. But it's not us. And then eventually the body dies and you go on. So because we are also Brahman, Krishna is the Supreme Brahman, Para-Brahman. But we're also Brahman. Means that we're part and parcel. Just as we have the water in the ocean, right? It's huge, unfathomable. And there's a little cup of water or a little drop of water. The nature is the same, but the quantity is greatly different. So the whole purpose of yoga, the whole purpose of bhakti, the whole purpose of this society is to put us in touch with that Supreme Brahman and reawaken our natural relationship. And by doing that, regaining gradually our nature, which is just like that Supreme Brahman. Anandamaya means full of bliss. Unending happiness. Despite whatever happens to the body will eventually go, and everything. But if we're situated in Krishna consciousness on that platform of Ananda, then we can tolerate anything, because we know we have that real nature. And the body will come to an end, but our happiness won't come to an end, and you will not take birth again. You will not take birth in a material body again. You'll discover your spiritual body. We have to have senses. We have to have mind and everything in order to relate to the Supreme Person. So we have our personality. We have our personhood. That's called the Swarup Siddhi, the perfection of reviving our original form and activities in the spiritual sphere. Now back to our verse here. So I mentioned there's three different elements: jnana and yoga and vairagya. So in this verse from the Bhagavad Purana it says, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojataha Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahoitikam. So notice the word vairagya there and the word jnana. You see? So what this verse says is, by serving Krishna, by engaging in the activities of bhakti yoga, beginning with the chanting of this Harekrishna mantra, one quickly develops, ashu means quickly, develops vairagya, detachment from the things that are harmful, un-Krishna conscious activities, and knowledge, jnana. Meaning that the knowledge is already in there. Really what it means to be in the material world means to be really overwhelmed with amnesia. We've forgotten. Does anyone here remember his previous life? I don't. But we went through it. Lives, not just one. So many experiences. Even in this life, there's so many things you forget. Right? I mean, we're a little seen. I mean, I remember some things stick out, but there's a whole ton of stuff that I forgot. Right? So when the whole body goes, naturally you forget everything. But it's there in its subtle body, in the material, in the mind. But you can't access it. And you get another chance and come out as hopefully a human being and start a whole new chapter. So that's material life. But spiritual life means to awaken to our original nature and stay in that nature. And to awaken our, as it said in the Bhagavad Purana, what is mukti? This is another term that has become popular over the years. Mukti means liberation. But what is liberation mean? No more form, no more activities, just to merge into the oneness, impersonal Brahman? No, not according to Bhagavad Purana. Mukti hitpa anyata rupam swarupena vivastati. Notice that word sarup there is again. Mukti means, which is one of the main topics of the Bhagavad Purana and of the Bhagavad Gita, is to give up all these other forms that we've had, including even in this one body. We've been transmigrating even in this one body. I mean, we all have a 5-year-old body, 10-year-old body, 15-year-old body. They're all in the rear view mirror. Some of us really far back, some of us not so far back. But it's not there anymore. Those bodies are gone, right? And also our consciousness has changed. So what's the same? Body's changed, mind has changed. What's the same? You're the same. The Atma, the self, has not changed. You're the one who's aware of all this. So, by getting knowledge, such as from the Bhagavad Gita, and beginning the process of yoga, we will develop detachment from those things which are tying us to this material world, the attachments. The body, the soul, because we're by nature lovers of God, lovers of Krishna, enjoying varieties of relationships with Him. That's our original state. We've forgotten. So it becomes contaminated when we try to engage in those activities in this world. Instead of relating to Krishna and for His pleasure, we're relating to this body and trying to give it pleasure. You know? But it's a very imperfect vehicle for pleasure. And when you try to enjoy, it sows the seeds of your suffering. That's right in the previous chapter. Remember I talked about these revolutionary verses, you remember? Let's see, we just studied it. 5:20, 21, is it? We all have books. Yeah. 21, 22. He says, text 522, it's on 249, he says, Yehi sangsparshaja bhoga dukkha yona evate. That's the most revolutionary statement. The bhoga, the enjoyment that comes, that's born of the senses touching their sense objects, that's sangsparshaja. That bhoga, that enjoyment, is the very seed or womb of your misery. Well, that's depressing. If that's all you know, in other words, if all you know is material enjoyment, it means that, you know, you're sowing the seeds of your suffering, digging your own grave. And really, when you think about it, material life is, you know, you're anticipating, you know, I mean, there's something you want. I got to get the money, I got to go somewhere, I got to meet you got to go somewhere and enjoy it. And then if everything is just right, you can afford it, you enjoy. Then it's over. You know, you got to crash, you got to leave. So the enjoyment is only taking place for a short time. There's a lot of anticipation, then there may be a lot of remembering it, so you try to do it again, whatever it may be, right? But it's definitely interspersed with periods of not enjoying. So that, and then what you're doing is you're planting seeds of taking rebirth. How does this reincarnation principle work? It's important to understand. It's described in more detail in the 15th chapter, which we won't have to turn to now. But just to summarize, it's very scientific. As you go through life, you're imbibing so many impressions. You're having so many experiences. Some of them enjoyable, some not so. And then eventually your life in this particular body ends. But your mind doesn't die. What we call the subtle body. We have two bodies. We have the gross body, which we commonly call the body, made of hands and legs and blood and bone and everything else. That we know about. But when you think about it, we really live in your internal body, in your mind. That's where you're living. So that mind and your intelligence, discriminating power, and the finest element we are, which is the ego, our sense of self, that stays with you. That doesn't perish when the gross body dies. And it's that subtle body, all that mind, with all of the impressions, and your karma, because there are higher forces that are also, organizing the whole thing. That's the template upon which your new body is made. So this gives us great agency and responsibility in working in such a way to get the best next body. Because we're human beings. We have the higher intelligence. We can decide to do this and not to do that. That's what education means. You go to school, I want to get a degree. Oh, okay, I can't party all the time, right? You have to get down to the books. You have to do certain things and not do other things. This is what any discipline is. You want to learn to be a great cellist somehow? First you got to find a teacher, got to do it right, and you have to practice, you know. And at first, your parents don't want to hear about it, right? They put the, you know. I remember when my brother, back when he was 13, he started to play the violin. It only lasted a week, you know. Scratching away, you know. Finally, he gave it up to everybody's relief. But if you get over the hump, you know, you can. It's after a while, music comes and everything. You get a little skill like that. So you're training. It's a discipline. It's a dharma. It's not the absolute dharma, but it's a practice. Because we're human beings, the animals, they work on instinct. They can't do this, but we can work for higher ends. So the supreme dharma, which is the verse that comes before the one I just quoted, Savai Pungsang Bado Dharma Yado Bhakti Hokshaje, is that which engenders your natural bhakti, your loving devotion to Hokshaja, which is a name for Krishna, a name for God, which is a very important name. It's three elements: Adha, Aksha, Ja. Aksha Ja. Ja is short for birth, like Janma. Tomorrow we're going to experience the Janma of Balaram. So Aksha Ja means that knowledge born of your senses. It's ordinary scientific knowledge that we practice all the time. So, but Adha means down. Krishna is transcendental. He's beyond any of that kind of knowledge. In other words, by our ordinary senses or ordinary mind, we cannot perceive him. All we can do is act in such a way that he will be pleased to reveal himself to us proportionate to our surrender. That's how we learn about Krishna. That's why, you know, opening the book of Srila Prabhupada, where he's just channeling, or he used the name via media or medium of Krishna's words. What are we're hearing Krishna's words in Krishna's translation. Prabhupada took the trouble of word by word so we can learn the language. And what is the purport here? He's taking it from other sources like Baladev Vijayabhushan, who also, you know, is a realized soul. So it's all coming down. The knowledge is coming down. We can't figure this out on our own. You know, when we submissively, you know, hear and take the knowledge in and try to act on it, then Krishna becomes pleased and he reveals himself proportionately. And as described here, the whole theme of this verse is that the sannyas, the detachment from matter, comes naturally by simply working to become attached to Krishna. What we'll hear about in this chapter is how to do it in kind of an unnatural way, a little artificial. You know, force yourself, tremendous will. Go off alone. You know, forget about sex. You know, and then no wife, no nothing. Just go off to the Himalayas, sit in a certain way, not too high, not too low. You know, practice pranayama, keep the mind fixed here. Who's going to do that today? We may dawdle a little bit, you know, the yoga studios. But, I mean, I went there. That's how I started, you know. And I came to the point of going home and trying to meditate for 15 minutes before I went to work, you know. It was very helpful. It was very calming, you know. I invented a meditation because I was also getting involved in chanting Hare Krishna, but I wanted to keep meditating. You know. So I got to the point where you're watching the breath, right? And with the in-breath, it's not very complicated, this meditation. With the in-breath, you watch the breath, and you associate the mantra within your mind. I can read it, you know. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And with the out-breath, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Try it sometime. It's very calming, you know. Problem is that it's also all alone, and you don't get the benefit of the drums and the dancing. And so Krishna consciousness means to get the same benefit, but without the impossibility, you know, of really meeting the goals here, the method here. Krishna goes through this whole thing in this chapter. He describes it very wonderfully. And then in text 2021, we'll get to later this month, is it 21? I think it's more than two chapters. 20 to 23, four verses, he describes the state of samadhi, which is, you know, sukham atyantikam. You experience the unlimited end of all happiness through transcendental senses. There's a very wonderful description here. And Prabhupada is careful to say, yes, this is, if you're really able to succeed in that yoga, you can experience. But the same benefit can be gotten by the practical yoga of bhakti. Chant the holy name, you know, and get the spiritual strength from Balaram. Bala means strength. Balaram is the appearance of Balaram means the appearance of the spiritual master who gives us spiritual strength to control the senses, to avoid those things, and at the same time practice bhakti. Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That Rama is also Balaram. It gives us the spiritual strength. And then there's another verse that describes in the 11th canto, Bhakti padeshano bhavova raktir hanyatra chaisha trika eka kara pabadyamana setashantaktu tushti pushti chalapayo nugasam. You know what tushti pushti means? Tomorrow we'll experience it. Tushti means pleasure, and pushti means nourishment. So this verse, spoken by one of the 9 yogendras, the experts in yoga, sons of Rishabdev, describes the actual experience of one who is a surrendered soul to the Lord. So here are 3 things you experience: bhakti, pada isha, anubhava, and anyatra cha, virakti anyatra cha. Prabhupada would quote that. So what is bhakti? Bhakti here means the actual pleasure of serving Krishna, of relating to being Krishna conscious. This is for one who has truly surrendered to the Lord, who is made the Lord become a sold out, servant. So bhakti and para isha anubhava, Krishna reveals himself. You get experience of the Lord in your life at every step. And you're detached from everything else. Did you want to sit on a chair? We have chairs, You okay? You good? I know. Isha means the supreme controller. It's the same word as Ishvara. It means God. God, someone who's the control. Yeah. We're also little Ishwaras. We have our little realm of control, but he is the Parameshwara, the supreme Ishvara. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Did you ever hear that line? Lord Brahma in his meditation. This is a very important verse. The first verse. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Savakarana Karanam. You chant? You know that one, right? So Ishvara Parama Krishna, the supreme controller, is Krishna. This whole movement is based on this idea. It's one statement: Krishna is God. He's the supreme controller. And what is his form like? Vigraha. Vigraha is your body. Satchit Ananda. It's eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Unlimited full of knowledge, unlimited full of bliss. Anadir. He has no beginning. There's no source for Krishna because he is the Adi, or beginning of everything. Anadi, Adi. He's the Adi. Govinda. He has his pastimes in Vrindavan with the cows and everything. Sarva Karana Karanam. This is the definition could come right out of St. Thomas Aquinas. Did you know that St. Thomas Aquinas was a theologian and he had various definitions of God? And one was the cause of all causes. The cause of all causes. In other words, when you contemplate this world in a scientific way, you'll see that everything has a series of causes, like this building. Well, there's a bunch of causes. The first one is the idea in someone's mind. We write down a blueprint. It's not going to do anything, right? There's an idea. And then you have to gather the materials, the labor, right? The money has to be there to purchase everything. Those are all causes. So, okay, where did the money come from? Where did the cement come from and everything? You can trace everything back, all the way back. Like ourselves, we go, you can go online, you get your family tree, right? You want to know where I come, who am I really? It's ignorant because it's just a series of bodies, but that's what we think. Right? Family tree, oh, now I know who I am, I have these Japanese people in my background. I come from a very exalted line, by the way. I just want to let you know that I had we go back into Eastern Europe, and one of my great-grandfathers, we were the Jewish background and everything, but he was a horse thief. And he had to run away from Poland into Russia to a town called Dolin or something, and he took the name Doliner. And that's how the great line of Doliners came down, from this horse thief. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm not kidding about that, but that I'm from a great line. But the great thing, it doesn't matter, because we're all souls, and any soul from any station can come to Krishna. So he says, Sarva Karana Karanam. This is another definition that Lord Brahma is saying. He's the cause of all causes. I am a big cause. I manipulate the world. This is Brahma speaking, who creates engineers the universes and the planets around the planet. But he knows that his source is Krishna, God, as we should. So let's just go through this verse, back to this. Bhakti pareshanabhava virakti anyatra chaisha trika ekakala. So the three things happen. The pleasure of serving the Lord, the bhakti, that's what this bhakti means. The experience of God directly, parayishanabhava, and the detachment from everything else for the surrendered soul. These three occur practically simultaneously for the surrendered soul, just as when we sit down, say after you fast, we do some fasting tomorrow, half day at least, and you have a good appetite, you sit down to a wonderful feast of prasadam, and then you honor the prasadam, say the prayer, and you begin to honor, means you taste one after another, oh, the tushti, the pleasure, wonderfully prepared prasadam, and meanwhile your body is getting nourished, so it's tushti and pushti, pushti means nourishment, and tushti, pushti, anugasam, tushti, pushti, I forget the Sanskrit right now. Then, and with every bite, you're becoming detached. In other words, you're detached from everything else as you eat, and also you even become detached from the food. Your hunger goes. Your hunger for material things is completely satisfied. There isn't any left. Just like when you eat a nice meal, then your hunger is gone. So that's the natural way of performing yoga that anyone can do, and that's why we can do it here. That's how Prabhupada spread the movement. Get people to chant, you'll experience Krishna directly, immediately begins to draw you away from material things. And if you create a greater foundation through knowledge, by purifying the intelligence, you get the spiritual strength to stay on the path and follow it strictly, and gradually you experience all these things. It's just, it never fails if you do it right. So that's what we're going to hear about here. Now, but here he's emphasizing that sannyas, detachment, renunciation, and yoga have to go together. There's no real yoga without developing this detachment from matter, because the whole purpose of yoga is to stay connected. Yoga means connection, just like a yoke, to stay connected with that supreme Brahman, the supreme person, through various processes of yoga. But you can't do it if your mind gets diverted constantly to trying to enjoy the senses. So that's what this verse is about. Okay, should we do one more? Okay, text 3. Now he's talking about the process of beginning and advancing. Aruruksho mane yogam karma karana uchyate yogarudasya tasyaiva shamak karana uchyate. For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Purport. The process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga. It may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization. This ladder begins from the lowest material condition of the living entity and rises up to perfect self-realization in pure spiritual life. According to various elevations, different parts of the ladder are known by different names. But all in all, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided into 3 parts, namely Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. The beginning of the ladder is called the Yoga Rurukshu stage, and the highest rung is called Yoga Rudha. Concerning the eightfold yoga system, attempts in the beginning to enter into meditation through regulative principles of life and practice of different sitting postures, which are more or less bodily exercises, are considered fruit of material activities. All such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, he ceases all disturbing mental activities. A Krishna-conscious person, however, is situated from the beginning on the platform of meditation because he always thinks of Krishna. Time out. Dayanidhi Prabhu, please close the door, altar door. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you go back there, see if you can? Dharma Raj, run back here. Yeah, see. There's this great illusion that develops that somehow this curtain acts like a wall, but it doesn't. Harekrishna. All right. So where were we? So this is just describing different stages. In the beginning, work is said to be the means. In other words, it's just like when you come to the temple, you know, and you first, there's so many things to do. Because if we recall from the 3rd chapter, this material desire known as kama, it infects the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. So you need things to do with the senses, the mind, and the intelligence, which are Krishna conscious. Otherwise, they're going to be engaged in sense gratification. So there's a whole lot of activity. I remember the first day I came. Dr. Tom, take out the trash. I guess it's a test, you know. Can I surrender to it? I was so relieved to be in the temple. I was just taking out, chanting Hare Krishna, you know, and laughing. I said, I think you're going to make it, Dr. Tom. So, you know, there's a million other places I could have been, doing a million other things. I could have been, you know, got a job as a garbage man, taking out the trash for money, but I wouldn't be chanting Hare Krishna. You know, it's just a drudgery. So the senses are going to act, the mind's going to do something, and the voice is going to act, all these things are going to happen. So that's where the instruction comes in, the knowledge of how to engage these things, these elements that are with us, in connection to Krishna. And they become purified. They become purified. Meaning that at a certain point, the desire to do the other things fades away. And you know, you can say, how did I ever do, you know, why did I ever get involved in that? I'm so glad I'm not, you know, entrapped in that activity anymore. Because this is a crazy world. What kind of culture is it? It's based on the, you know, the grossest kind of sense gratification. And that's, you know, we've adopted that word sin, you know, from the Christian side, you know. But it simply means activities against the laws of God, against the laws of nature, which means it leads to degradation. We should always remember we've come up. We've come up through thousands and thousands of forms. Now we have a human form of life. We should not waste it. The thing is, we have a history, and therefore we have a certain animal side. Because we've been through all these different bodies, and that stays with us for a certain time. But the great factor in the human form of life is the intelligence, unlike all the other forms. Every plant, every insect, every dog and cat is the soul, just like we are. But the consciousness is much more rudimentary. They have no ability to contemplate these things, no possible interest. I mean, we can do them good and give them a little prasadam, you know, which is all to the benefit. But we have enough difficulty getting human beings to come to the class. You could imagine dogs and cats trying to say, it's not going to happen. So labdva sudurlabha vidam bahu sambhavante. This verse Prabhu would quote all the time from the 11th canto. Labdva sudurlabha vidam bahu sambhavante manusham. You've attained this human form, manusham. You can hear the word man in there. The Sanskrit has a lot of cognates from the English. The other way around, but you can see. So, labdva sudurlabha vidam. Sudurlabha means very rare. Bahu sambhavante, after many, many births. Here we are all sitting in the human form of life. Manusham. And what's the special value? Artadam. Now, arta is a word that means something of value. It often means money, which most people take to be valuable. But it means anything of value. And here it means the great value of ending this round of birth and death. Mukti, liberation, finally. You know, that's a preliminary goal. So, artadam, but it's temporary, anityam. It's not eternal, obviously, this body, the human form. So one has to be dhira. This word dhira is really important. It means thoughtful, contemplative. You know, stop a minute and think, what am I doing? Where am I going? How can I, you know, act in such a way for my ultimate good? So one who is dhira, then you take it seriously, tunam, don't waste any time. As soon as you get inspired, strike while the iron is hot. Because we know that, our moods can go up and down, you know, all the time. Yeah, I used to go to the Hare Krishnas. That was cool, I remember that, you know, but then I got busy. No. Dhira, anturnam yateta. Immediately strive. For what? So then he says, in what condition? Turnam yateta napateta namrityaya. But as long as your body hasn't fallen down and died. And this word anumrityu means death is always following us. You never know when it's going to hit. We're all aware of these crazy, it's become a regular feature of American life. Mass murders. You're going shopping somewhere, some nut comes out of the woodwork, you know, starts shooting. It's so unpredictable. You know, it puts everybody on edge. So that's what this life is all about. At any time, disaster can strike. You know, some deadly disease, accident. So don't waste any time. Strive for what? And this is the key, the word nikshayasa. the ultimate good. Okay, liberation from this birth and death. Going back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada created this wonderful phrase. Back home means that home, that place where you never have to leave. No one is going to kick you out. You're always welcome, and you're happy there forever. That's our ultimate home. And we can't even imagine the happiness that's out there. So Nikshayasaya, and then he ends with a very piquant warning. Vishayakala sarvata, because all these different varieties of sense gratification that we could be tempted to try to enjoy, we've already experienced it 1,000,000 times. Kala sarvata, in all these other forms we've had. Been there, done that. And then what has it gotten us? Another birth, more suffering. Is it? So this is a very, your human form of life, don't waste it. Strive. Don't waste any time. You read so many places like where Krishna's Kaviraj had a dream. A Balaram, actually. Nityananda is Balaram. And it's a long story why he had that dream. He's already a devotee, but he has this dream. And Balaram is got this, he's dressed, it's like Nityananda as Balaram, and he's dressed as a coward boy, and he says, go to Vrindavan. You'll find everything there, So next morning he gets up, doesn't wait. Immediately gets up, takes a shower, and starts for Vrindavan. Because otherwise you get entangled. Oh, wait a minute, I got to go to work. No, started for Vrindavan. So these are the great acharyas. He took it seriously, went and became Krishna's Kaviraj and wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the point is that we don't have to do anything radical, but we do have to change, accept the injunctions, basic injunctions of Krishna consciousness without waiting. Associate with devotees, chant Hare Krishna, reform your life, give up sinful activities, like that. So these verses are meant for us. So here he's just describing, and we'll have to end soon, that for the beginning in any process, there's work to do. We need something to do because we're used to being active. So even the yogas, like we got the asanas, what you can do in order to calm down. It's very helpful because it makes the body strong, and calm, and peaceful. Change and the breathing. This is all important. That's something to do. But ultimately, yoga means sitting. This is one of the amazing things about Radhanath Swami, is that he was a real yogi. He was doing the yoga. He brings that kind of steadiness and determination to bhakti, and you can see the result. He's extremely advanced. It's unusual because usually Westerners, but he did it. He went there to the Himalayas, he sat there, he did the meditation and everything. But eventually he came out of the Himalayas because he wasn't satisfied with that. Came down, and came to Vrindavan and met Prabhupada. It's very unusual, but it shows that yoga ultimately culminates. You're kind of reliving the 6th chapter. He started out, he's doing, and then he gets to the end of the 6th chapter, and the greatest yoga, Krishna says, is one is always thinking me within the heart, worshiping me with great faith. In other words, the bhakta. The Bhagavad Gita, without doubt, the whole thing is to bring you to the point. Prabhupada talks about the ladder, yoga ladder, karma yoga, active. You're linking, but it's, there's still a lot of material desire there and activity. And then jnana, the knowledge expands so that you're more aware, mindful, of what you're doing and how you're doing it. The same activity is there. Prabhupada would also drink water, but he would drink water in a way where you could see he's completely Krishna conscious. This is, it's just the difference. So then you move up this ladder, jnana yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga. Even though you may be so active, the mind doesn't waver. You're seeing Krishna everywhere in every activity, And then it's all saturated with bhakti. So all the elements from the different yogas are incorporated into bhakti. Whereas in that dhyana, for someone who's completely absorbed in the holy name or completely absorbed in seeing Krishna everywhere. Whereas in that knowledge, who's someone who's saturated with the Shastra, as Prabhupada was. And what to speak of, yoga and always being connected. Jnana, yoga, bhakti, it's all there in bhakti yoga. It's complete. Karma, dhyana, and jnana. Okay, there's only 2 minutes. Any urgent questions, comments? Sorry, I went over. We missed our Upadeshamrita. I got carried away. Because there's such a big crowd tonight. It's huge, We usually, we had one with just Marcy. And oftentimes it's just you two. And we have all these guests. And you've been a regular, so now it's starting. Okay. So tomorrow night will be a special night, of course. It'll be Balaram. and we'll hear about Balaram. I did some research. I won't be speaking tomorrow night, but tomorrow morning, this is also about Balaram class. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari.